wisdom.
We'd like to welcome each and every one of you to tonight's City Board of Directors meeting on this first day of September of 2020. This is our 15th Board of Directors meeting of the year. We'll begin the meeting with an invocation by Minister Jason Ross, and I'll lead the pledge. Please rise.
Father God, we thank you for our city. God, we're grateful today. God, before we do anything, before we get into anything, God, we stop and just say that we're grateful. We're grateful, Lord, for your protection over our city. We're grateful, Lord, that you're moving in our city. God, we're grateful for our leadership. God, that you're moving in them. God, that you're giving them wisdom every single day with every step. Lord, we know that in the face of crisis, things can get clouded. And God, we pray right now for clarity. We pray, God, for new vision. God, we just pray for creativity. God, just fiscally and economically, just creativity, God, just for your spirit to move in them, God. Holy Spirit, we just ask that you would be over this meeting. God, just overall peace over our city, God, and what you're doing here. Again, God, we are grateful. Our hearts are grateful for what you're doing. We know that you're moving. We know that you're here. Lord, we don't make decisions off of fear, but we make decisions, Lord, in faith of who you are and faith that you're moving here. So, God, we just give you this meeting. We thank you, God, for everything you're doing. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag
to the flag,
United
States of America,
to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
We'll call this meeting to order, and as we have in the past, we have a number of directors that are at home zooming in, and so they're participating from a distance, but nonetheless participating. So please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Elaine Jones.
Here.
Director Becca Clark.
Here.
Director Carol Weatherford.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Randy Foley.
Here.
And Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. This time we'll consider approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Mayor, there is one item. It's item number 10 under new business. It's Ordinance 02037. This was an appeal from the denial of a rezoning request for certain property at the intersections of Malvern, Lakeside, and Suburban Drive. That application for rezone and the appeal before you this evening has been withdrawn. So that matter is no longer will be part of your business. So with that one change doesn't require a motion. It's just not.
I'll say.
Very good. So item 10 is withdrawn. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by Director Clark. All in favor of the approval of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Agenda is approved. Consider approval of minutes of the regularly scheduled meeting of August 18, 2020. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes as presented? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Director Weatherford, seconded by
Second.
Director Clark. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have a special recognition tonight of Melissa Glenn of the Hot Springs Women of Prayer. Melissa's been performing this task since Drew Terry stepped down a few years back, and she coordinates all the invocations with the various pastors within our community, and she's having a change in life and moving on to different things. And as a good individual, she doesn't want to leave us empty-handed, so she recruited. Mm-hmm. And I think this young lady will outlive us all if she wants to continue. So, Melissa, thank you again for your service, and a few parting comments and then an introduction.
Thank you so much. It means so much.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's been a stepping stone because Miss Drew Terry gave this to me, and that I'm younger compared to Miss Drew Terry. She'll say that. And then Miss Chloe Capacey is 19 years old. But I think it's really neat. I was talking to the mayor about it. It reflects the passion of our city across the board about how much we love young people and how much we want to see them successful in our city. And so I think, oh, this is awesome. This is perfect. And Chloe has a heart for the Lord. She's a heart for our city. She's very dedicated. She's actually Pastor Eric Capacey's daughter. So if you know him, he's got a hat in everything. He's very productive and very busy. And I think his daughter follows right behind him in productivity. And she's a champion Bible college student. But yeah, my story is bittersweet, more sweet. Only bitter because I'm having to leave Hot Springs, but definitely sweet because I'm getting married in 19 days. Oh. And my last name will be Goad, just in case you need to know it.
Is that a courtesy? Was that actually?
It was. I couldn't help it. If you know how excited I am. But I'm counting down 19 days. So I'm very grateful. It's been my pleasure. And, with Drew Terry, our pleasure, she's sending greetings tonight, to have this ongoing opportunity to lead prayer before the board of directors meetings. My eyes have been open of everything that you guys do in our city, and I'm so grateful. I'm going to continue praying. And these 25 plus years, I know that Chloe Capacey is going to continue leading that as well. So I'm so grateful, and I just want her to say hi. So thank you so much.
I can't wait to get to know everyone better. But she talks so highly of all of y'all. But I've actually been praying about how I can get more involved in the government area in my city. I've lived here my whole life, and so whenever she presented this opportunity to me, I was so excited to just continue the prayer for our city. So thank you.
Very good. You'll find it every 2 weeks comes around like almost every other day, it seems like.
Congratulations on your marriage.
Yes.
Do we have any other guests to be recognized this evening? Any other directors have a guest? Hearing none, we'll move on. Deputy City Manager Lance Spicer is sitting in for City Manager Bill Burrow, and he'll provide the City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe you've got a full book of business this evening, so I'll be brief in the remarks. Of course, with the weather we've been having lately, we had Tropical Storm Laura. I think the response that the city had, we were prepared for, I should say, last week with the command staff of Chris Chapman, and then, of course, Fire Chief Ed Davis at the Emergency Operations Center had that ready to go. We also had representatives from Finance, as well as our Public Works Director, Denny McFate, and John Paul Faulkner, our Streets Manager. I believe the Streets Division put together approximately 1,500 sandbags for the downtown area, which is obviously one of our more flood-prone. But overall, we were prepared. The storm went more east of us, but obviously I think we've got a good bit of rain and bad weather coming our way next few days. So please be aware of that. Obviously, flash flooding is something that can happen. Central Avenue, Airport Road, those corridors. If you see water on the road, of course, be very vigilant and cautious as you approach. I think this week we've got kind of a full slate for everyone on Thursday. Of course, we've got the Cornerstone tank, the valve turning, I should say. That's a monumental undertaking for the city. That's a huge project that's finally coming about. That's a 3 million gallon tank, and of that, the additional storage, that's just under 28.7, just under 29 million gallons of water storage. So that's about 65% of the city's 24-hour daily storage needs. So that really, when you talk about storage needs, that's something that Hot Springs certainly needs with its peaks in demand. So that's a big happening that'll occur 9 a.m. on Thursday. And then also we'll kind of hot-foot it down the street to the ribbon cutting at 324 Malvern. That's going to be it's a fabulous facility. Going to have utility billing services, very own city attorney office, as well as our finance and purchasing will be locating there. That ribbon cutting is set for 10:30 on Thursday as well. So I think you'll see some of Mr. Albright's design elements in the building. He should be commended. If the law thing doesn't work out, I think he's got an outstanding ability for interior design.
That's been suggested to me.
Also, of course, our June sales tax revenues, they were up 4.72% compared to 2019 June. These figures, of course, they're very encouraging, but obviously as we move into the 21 budget, we'll continue to be optimistic, but certainly cautious as we begin to design that 21 budget. So the sales tax revenue is something that's encouraging, but we're certainly keeping an eye on our expenses as well as our revenues. Of course, with the upcoming Labor Day holiday on this coming Monday, city offices will be closed. That includes our intercity transit at the depot, so those intercity transit services will also be closed on Monday. But our public safety division, police, fire, Hot Springs Memorial Field, airport, those will certainly be open, as well as the treatment plants, water and wastewater. Of note, the emergency on-call number is 501-321-6200 for water and sewer issues that arise over that time. So, and that's the standard on-call number. So please make note of that. Do you want to have a quick shout out to our information systems director, Jeff Winter, and his staff. Of course, the past 2 years we have certainly undertaking a training of malware, phishing emails. Of course, with COVID, you've got a whole lot of COVID-related phishing emails, but it's been a 2-year process, and this past week we've been doing training for employees. It's the first time that we haven't had one employee click on one of the links, which really, when you're talking about electronic malware and things like that, your employees are your first line. Jeff and his group's done a fabulous job of keeping the technology that you need to sort through those type of things and keep our information safe. And that concludes the report, Mayor.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have announcements from individual directors on upcoming events? Any announcements of an upcoming event?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Director Garcia.
Yes, I couldn't hear all of what the deputy city manager was saying, so I apologize if he announced this. But on Thursday, September the 3rd, this coming Thursday at the Garland County Library, the Arkansas Health Department is hosting the free COVID-19 testing between 4 and 8 p.m. And that is a community testing. The governor was disappointed in the number of tests in the past yesterday, in the past few days, and they are doing across the state some pop-up testing, and Thursday they will be here in Hot Springs 4 to 6 at the Garland County Library for free testing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
I do, if I may, Mayor.
Director Holliday.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an early shout out, but I did want to mention that the annual Arts in the Park Festival is coming back. It was scheduled for the spring and was rescheduled. And so that's going to be mostly virtual to make sure that everybody's safe. But it is one of our first festivals that's coming back. We're all kind of coming out from under the rocks of this summer. And so it's exciting to see the festivals returning this fall. And so Arts in the Park is September 25th through October 1st. And you can go to the website hotspringsarts.org to find information, and the schedule will be coming out in the next few days.
Well, thank you very much. Any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move on. Our next agenda item is the consent agenda. This is a listing of items of a routine nature that do not warrant discussion. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Director Clark, seconded by Director Weatherford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Consent agenda is approved. Our first item of new business is to consider Resolution R20-125. And Council, please read the resolution by title.
Resolution R20-125, a resolution lengthening the 2020 Community Development Block Grant CDBG fiscal year to June 30, 2021, and adopting the annual July 1 to June 30 CDBG fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
So moved.
Director Foley,
Second.
seconded by, I think, Director Garcia.
Second. Holiday.
Holiday, thank you, Director Holiday. And our staff report will be provided by Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight we're proposing a resolution to lengthen the 2020 Community Development Block Grant fiscal year to June 30th of 2021 instead of December 31st of 2020. And this is in order to adopt a new annual CDBG fiscal year of July through June, beginning July 1st of 2021. When the CDBG program was established in Hot Springs in 2003, a January through December program year was adopted with the understanding that the federal grant funds would be available for expenditure on a calendar year cycle. And I can remember when I came here in 2006 that we thought we had to wait a very long time because the funds usually weren't available until the end of March. Well, as it turns out, those were the good old days. Now, since CDBG allocations are part of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development budget, funding's contingent on the passing of an annual federal transportation, housing, and urban development appropriations bill. And the passage of appropriations bills has varied widely. And CDBG grantees have not been receiving funding authorization until between June and September for a fiscal year that began in January. The current 8 to 13 month delay between the CDBG open application period in August and the final funding authorization that has been occurring late the following year makes it difficult to support urgent projects. It places a strain on city staff involved in planning and executing projects, and it risks the city's ability to meet HUD's timely spend down goal of no more than 1.5 times the annual grant amount in unspent funds when funds are authorized as late as 1 month prior to that timeliness reporting deadline. Repeated failure to meet the HUD spend down goal results in a reduction of future funding, and there are other statutory penalties regardless of reasons for the spending delay. Title 24 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 9110, enables the City of Hot Springs to change the fiscal year cycle to July through June by extending the current fiscal year and establishing a new fiscal year cycle. Key CDBG reports, deadlines, and milestones would become more predictable for all involved under a July through June program year. There are sufficient 2020 CDBG planning and administration funds to extend the current fiscal year to June 30th of 2021 in order to begin a new annual fiscal year period on July 1st. This proposed change was noticed. We ran it in the newspaper on July 8th, August 2nd, and 5th. There is a 30-day public comment period. The Community Development Advisory Committee held 2 duly advertised meetings with in-person and teleconference options to discuss and to hear comment. Residents and Habitat for Humanity supported the change. No opposition has been heard. The committee unanimously recommended that the Hot Springs Board of Directors consider lengthening the 2020 fiscal year until June 30th, 2021, and that the board adopt a new annual July 1st through June 30th fiscal year period to begin on July 1st, 2021. There are no anticipated negative effects, In changing the CDBG fiscal year, there will be no impacts to the general fund. And that concludes the presentation.
Thank you. Any questions of Director Selman? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anybody want to speak on this issue?
No sign up.
Any discussion amongst directors?
Good idea.
Pardon?
Good idea.
Please call the roll.
Director Holliday?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Clark?
Aye.
Weatherford?
Aye.
Garcia?
Aye.
Folly?
Aye.
Mayor McCabe?
Aye. Resolution is adopted. At this time, we'll consider Resolution R20-126 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R20-126, a resolution authorizing a guarantee maximum price contract with Hill & Cox Corporation for the Majestic Park Ball Field Complex. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion if any.
Motion to adopt.
Move. Second.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Foley. I see Steve Harrison, head of the A&P Commission, and Lance, who's going to lead the way?
I can kind of tee it up, and then if Steve wants to
Knock it out of the park.
knock it out of the park.
I'm just so excited to be here. I don't care.
Thank you. I'll start it off, Steve, if it's okay. Of course, this particular item comes to the board recommending a maximum pricing contract for the Majestic Fields Ballpark. That's, of course, a 5-field complex located at the former Hot Springs Boys and Girls Club Park Fields. The maximum pricing comes in at $7,413,218. And for that, this is with Hill & Cox Corporation. Back in 2019, late in 2019, the board approved Hill & Cox Corporation as the highest qualified contractor through a statement of qualifications. And in doing so, as the contractor, they have designed construction documents and pricing and bid documents for this particular project, which now brings us to the actual contract with the pricing agreement and the scope of work. So with that, I'll kind of turn it over to Steve for any thing with the contract.
Yeah, thank you, Lance. I'm really excited to be here. We appreciate your support on this project. We really appreciate the voters that allowed the bonds to be let so we can bring baseball back to the youth of our community. We're ready to go. It's been a long project. You remember we started and then this pandemic came up right when we bid the project. Hill & Cox have done a great job for us so far. Some of it we had to go back and rebid. I'm not sure if it was good or bad, the pandemic. Obviously, I don't think it was good. We've come up with a good plan. We're going to have a first-class facility. It's going to take care of the needs. We're just really excited about it, but we can't start until y'all approve this tonight. And hopefully if we can get all the hurricanes out of the way, maybe the rain and start, maybe I can get Hill & Cox to start tomorrow morning. But that's why we're here. I've got Tim Wilson and Brian are here, Brian Hill. Derek Phillips, our general manager. If you have any technical questions, they'd be the ones to answer them, but if anything, I can answer. But we'd really appreciate your support. We want to get this started. We think if the weather will cooperate, hopefully we can get it done in a year or less. a year or less. If we can get it done in a year, then we can be playing baseball hopefully next fall. We're really excited about it. We have a fund already started with $10,000 in it, so anybody who cannot afford to play youth baseball will have their fees paid. They'll get their gloves, their shoes, hat, and their T-shirt. So everybody can play. It's going to be great for our local children to learn baseball, maybe go to the major leagues, and it'll be really good for our tourists when we bring those teams and all their money in on the weekends. So if you have any questions, I've got the experts with me. We'd be happy to answer them. If not, we'd appreciate an affirmative vote.
Very good. Any questions of Mr. Harrison?
I have a question actually for Mr. Spicer, if I may.
It's Director.
Yeah, thank you. Real quick, so I believe it was last meeting or the meeting before you brought us a grant opportunity for the playground that I noticed was omitted from the list. Are we going to continue to look for other funding sources? Because some of the things that are having to be omitted seem fairly critical to the original plan. So just so I'm clear, are we going to try to get some of this stuff actually put back in the plan, maybe just from some other means?
I can speak to the grant application portion. That was for playground and some ball field lighting. I think it also had some turf components.
That's a grant that we're going to one of the state departments with. We're going to add back that. Right now, we're just trying to get it started. A lot of those things will be added back later. We're not concerned. There's going to be a playground. You've got to have a playground. It's going to be a great playground. There'll be benches. There's some little things like some windscreen that was left off. We're not going to need that until the tail end of the project. So a lot of those will be added back or will be added by the Advertising and Promotion Commission.
Okay, thank you.
Not sure which one.
Thank you.
This one just went off.
Any other questions of Mr. Harrison? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Anyone sign up to speak on this?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. This time we'll consider ordinance 02038. I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Foley, seconded by Director Weatherford. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules, read by title only. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 020-38, an ordinance authorizing eminent domain condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of certain real property, ID 55349, located on Ozark Street, owned by Eleanor Bell, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion and second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Clark,
Second.
seconded by Director Weatherford. And providing a staff report will be Mr. Denny McFate, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. The recommendation is to approve a purchase of approximately .52 acres, parcel ID 55349, from Mrs. Eleanor Bell in the amount of $2,500 through eminent domain as part of a flood mitigation project located on Whittington Creek, which is west of the Hot Springs Creek Tunnel entrance. The City of Hot Springs has a long record of its historic flooding in the downtown area. The Board of Directors passed Resolution 9353 in December of 18, authorizing the city to enter into a contract with FTN and Associates for a flood mitigation study. The results of this study has shown that a detention basin within the Whittington Creek watershed is a viable project to pursue that will make a significant contribution to mitigating the severity of flooding in downtown Hot Springs. The project in itself will not prevent flooding downtown, but will reduce the level of the 100-year storm event by approximately 2 feet. Additional mitigation methods and areas for detention will continue to be pursued with future and adequate funding to further reduce flood levels of those significant storm events. Staff has mailed 3 letters of offer and acceptances to Mrs. Bell, with one response stating that she was not interested in selling. On March 6, 2020, staff received a professional appraisal of the property, and the finding of the appraisal is as follows. The property was compared to 6 other properties within the Whittington Valley neighborhood from recent sales. The comparison sale prices from a low of $2,000 to a high of $3,000. Street access is needed to access the project off of Ozark Street as part of the flood mitigation project. Therefore, staff's recommendation is to approve the purchase of parcel 55349 from Mrs. Eleanor Bell in an amount of $2,500 through the eminent domain process, and there are funds budgeted in the stormwater's property acquisition account 5801. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you. Any questions of Mr. McFate? Any questions? No. Thank you. Anyone from the audience sign up?
No, sir.
Discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Folly.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. At this time, we'll consider ordinance 02039. And I will entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved. Second.
Director Weatherford, seconded by Director Foley. All in favor of the motion to suspend the rules, read by title only, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 020-39, an ordinance authorizing eminent domain condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of certain real property, ID 55346, located on Ozark Street, owned by Ennis Jackson, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion if you.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Foley, seconded by Director Clark. And again, Mr. McFate, Director of Public Works, will provide a staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is the second partial of 4 that I'll be bringing before you tonight. This property is .048 acres. We're asking to purchase from Ms. Ennis Jackson in the amount of $2,000 through eminent domain. This property is also part of the flood mitigation project that I mentioned to you in the previous item. Staff has mailed 3 letters of offer and acceptances to Ms. Jackson with no responses back from her. On March 6, 2020, staff received professional appraisal of the property, and the findings of the appraisal were as follows. There were 6 properties compared to in the Whittington Valley neighborhood, and the sales again were ranged in the low of $2,000 to a high of $3,000. The property lies entirely within a special flood hazard area and is also needed as part of this flood mitigation project. Therefore, staff's recommendation is the approval of the purchase of partial 55-346 in the amount of $2,000 through the eminent domain process. And again, those funds are budgeted in the Stormwater Division Property Acquisition Account 5801. Any questions?
Good. Any questions, Mr. McFate? Thank you.
Yes.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Dr. Garcia.
You didn't get any responses. Does Miss Jackson live in Hot Springs?
No, ma'am, she does not.
Oh. Okay. And so they were sent to where she lives, but she had no response.
Yes, ma'am. We sent one of the 3 we sent by certified mail to be sure that we had the address correct on each property, and she did sign one of those.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further questions? Anyone from the audience sign up? No? Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This time we'll consider Ordinance 020-40, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Clark,
Second.
Director Weatherford, all in favor of the motion to suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 020-40, an ordinance authorizing eminent domain condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of certain real property, ID 55339, located at 153 Water Street, owned by Tony Huffman, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director
Second.
Weatherford, second by Director Foley. And again, staff report will be provided by Denny McFate, Public Works Director.
Thank you, Mayor. As stated, this is .44 acres. The property is owned by Tony Huffman. We're asking to purchase it in the amount of $2,000. This is the third partial of the 4 that I mentioned I was going to bring before you. This one's just a little bit different than the other 3 of the 4 properties, in that this is the only property that has a structure on it out of the 4. Staff mailed 3 letters of offer and acceptances to Mr. Huffman. We received no responses. On March 9th, 2020, staff received a professional appraisal of the property, and the findings of the appraisal is as follows. The property includes a house that is in poor condition. The property is landlocked and is unknown if there is a parking access or agreement with the adjacent property owner. The property has not been maintained. It has been vandalized and is not structurally sound. Updating or remodeling would not be cost effective, and the cost to remove the structure is in excess of the land value of $2,000. The property lies entirely within the special flood hazard area, and as mentioned previously, was be part of the flood mitigation project. Therefore, staff is recommending the appraisal suggested value of $2,000 to be approved through the eminent domain process. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions of Mr. McFate? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone sign up to speak on this matter? No? Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. We'll consider ordinance 020-41, and we'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules, read by title only.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by Director Weatherford. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules and read by title only. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 020-41, an ordinance authorizing eminent domain condemnation proceedings for the acquisition of certain real property, ID 55340, located along Water Street, owned by Joyce Lawrence, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion and second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Weatherford,
Second.
Director Foley made the second, and Denny McFate will provide the staff overview.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, again, this is the last of the four purchases that we're bringing before you tonight. This is a .292 acre parcel that is owned by Miss Joyce Lawrence. It's the same mitigation project as the previous three. Staff mailed 3 letters of offer and acceptances as well to Mrs. Lawrence. We did not receive any responses back from her. On March 6, 2020, staff received a professional appraisal of the property, and the finding was as follows: as the other properties were that the Whittington Valley neighborhood comparative sales were of the 6 was on a low of 2,000 and a high of 3,000. This property also lies entirely within a special flood hazard area, and again is needed as part of the flood mitigation project. So therefore, staff recommends approval of the purchase of the parcel 55,339 in the amount of $2,500 through the eminent domain. And if this is approved and we're working in the process of closing on 2 other parcels, we'll have 100% of the property needed for this project, this detention project. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. McFate? Thank you. Anyone sign up on this issue? No? Discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Foley.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. We'll consider ordinance 020-42, and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Clark, seconded by
Second.
Director Foley. We have a motion and a second to suspend the rules, read by title only. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved, and council, please read by title.
Ordinance 020-42, an ordinance approving CTR zoning on land generally located at Twin Points and Higdon Ferry Roads, amending the future land use plan map to designate the area a linear commercial corridor and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain a motion and a second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Holliday, seconded by
Jones.
Director Jones.
Mr. Mayor, this is Karen, and I didn't have my mute button correct, and I need to recuse myself from this, so I will not participate.
Very good. Thank you, and appreciate your acknowledging that. So at this time, we'll get a staff report from Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director.
Thank you. The applicant on this item is Mr. Steve Street, representing the property owner, the Center at Forest Lakes LLC, and he is seeking a zone change consideration from R4, medium high density residential, to CTR, commercial transition district, for unplatted property located at the intersection of Twin Points Road and Forest Lakes Boulevard. The property has a future land use plan map designation of residential medium high and is located in Board of Directors District Number 5. Subject property is adjacent to Forest Lakes Garden Home Subdivision Phase 3D. It consists of approximately 0.61 acres and currently is undeveloped. The parcel is not part of the Forest Lakes Garden Home Subdivision. There is approximately 110 feet of street frontage on Twin Points Road and approximately 130 feet of street frontage on Forest Lakes Boulevard. The site is located approximately 1,100 feet west of the recently widened Higdon Ferry Road thoroughfare and Twin Points Road and Higdon Ferry signalized intersection. Now, according to the street classification table, Twin Points Road, formerly called Rocky Reef Road, is listed as an arterial thoroughfare. The applicant submitted a 4-page narrative in support of the zone change request. The narrative describes this request in detail and builds the case for Planning Commission to consider and the board to decide the request to change the zoning. The narrative stated in parts all lots on Twin Points Road from Higdon Ferry to this lot are commercial. The property across the street on the south side of Twin Points recently obtained approval for inclusion of commercial development with that overall development's zoning approval. The applicant also notes this development will comply with the city's concept of CTR zone change. It promotes development in an existing neighborhood and also states in part the change to CTR would help to promote infill development in this area where the lot has remained vacant for 13 years since Forest Lakes Development's first residents moved into the subdivision. The narrative also describes a need for the land to be zoned CTR and states in part the zone change will achieve the objectives of promoting positive development and redevelopment of the immediate area with the construction of a quiet business structure that would only enhance the neighborhood and help in the transition of the residential area to the heavy commercial development immediately east of the subject at this time. And notes finally that the change to CTR would provide a buffer for the neighborhood as well. No conditional use permit or development plan is being considered at this time. Should CTR zoning be approved, any non-residential use on the subject property would require future conditional use application and site plan consideration by Planning Commission. Planning Commission duly advertised and conducted a public meeting on August 13th, 2020. After calling for testimony and considering the record, Planning Commission, by its vote of 8-0, and Commissioner Ramick did recuse for conflict, recommended that the Board of Directors approve an ordinance amending the zoning map from R4, medium-high density residential, to CTR commercial transition for property located at the intersection of Twin Points Road and Forest Lakes Boulevard.
Any questions of Director Selman? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone sign up? No one signed up. Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
Aye.
Noted that Garcia has recused. Director Foley.
Aye. Excuse me, aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. Our last action item of the evening is to consider Ordinance 02043 and I'll entertain a motion to suspend the rules to read by title only.
So moved.
Director Jones.
Second.
Seconded by Director Foley. All in favor of the motion, second to suspend the rules and read by title only, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Council, please read by title.
Ordinance 020-43, an ordinance approving PD Plan Development District zoning for HJ utility trailers on land generally located at Albert Pike and Hicks Circle. And for the purposes, that concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain A motion and second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Jones, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. Again, our staff report will be provided by Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director.
Thank you, Mayor. The applicant for this item is Aaron Burrows, P.E., with Atoka Incorporated, representing property owners Howard Johnson Jr. and Howard Johnson III. And the request is for plan development, PD, zoning, and site plan approval to develop and operate a utility trailer sales business on the subject properties to be known as HJ Trailer Sales. This is an approximately 1.92 acre site, and it's currently zoned C2 General Business District and R4 Medium High Density Residential. These properties have future land use map designations of linear commercial corridor and residential medium high, and it's located in Board District Number 3. The portion of this property that's located in Hicks subdivision is currently zoned C2, General Business District. And the property located in Gardner, James P. subdivision is currently zoned R4, medium high density residential. There's frontage on Albert Pike Road, Hicks Circle, and Avery Street. The properties have approximately 155 linear feet of street frontage on Albert Pike, 178 linear feet of street frontage on Hicks Circle, and approximately 53 linear feet of street frontage on Avery Street. The properties are currently undeveloped with the exception of a small commercial structure that most recently was the location of a barber shop. The proposed development will occupy the entire site and will consist of a commercial sales office, paved parking, utility trailer display areas, maintenance shop building, lighting, landscaping, screening, and stormwater detention area. The existing commercial building will be utilized as the business sales office with adjacent paved parking. The proposed maintenance shop building will be located across Hicks Circle on land that is currently zoned business, and primary vehicular access to the site will be gained via Albert Pike Road. Access to the maintenance shop building is from Hicks Circle. Access from the property's Avery Street frontage will be prohibited, and the applicant has agreed to this in order to prevent commercial traffic from impacting the adjacent residential neighborhood. Planning Commission heard this item on August 13th after duly advertising and calling for testimony. They considered the record and recommended that the board adopt an ordinance approving the request for PD zoning and also approve the PD site plan, which will describe exactly how this property will be developed and operated. They made a specific finding that the requested change meets the standards required by Hot Springs Code, Section 16.247. The change will allow the development of an infill parcel in the developed portion of the city, and the application is supported by Hot Springs 2030's infill goal. There are 6 conditions that go along with that recommendation, and Planning Commission's recommendation includes that you would accept these conditions as a part of the ordinance as you consider approval. There was a question asked regarding dirt work on the site. This came up at the agenda meeting, and I have explored that. There has, in fact, been activity on the site. As it turns out, it was not possible to survey the site because of the thicket of undesired growth that had developed over many, many years. So there was extensive removal of vegetation on the site. I'm told that the contractor who will be doing the site work has left his equipment there, but that no activity will commence until the action of the board becomes final, should you choose to approve this zoning. Thank you.
You got any questions of Director Selman? Thank you. Anyone sign up?
One thing.
Oh.
You said foliage. There were giant trees cut down.
There were some very large trees removed, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it's all gone. Everything's cleaned off. This is not in process. This has happened.
Yes, it has happened.
Who is the contractor on this?
I believe it's Brumley. Would you like them to?
If we're having communication, we'd like to have it at the podium.
Yeah,
please.
I think the applicant can give you a more complete answer than I can.
Well, I was going to follow up with a question. Who is the developer on Buena Vista Point, the development down that end? Is that the same developer?
It is not the same developer.
Okay. I just don't understand why all of this stuff is done before approval of the project. I mean, if this is not approved, the neighbors are going to be sitting there with a barren piece of property, absent the trees and everything else. I think this board needs to address that circumstance with developers that are moving ahead without board approval.
There is no regulation that requires this to be approved.
Requires what to be approved? Clearing of...
Removal of trees.
Okay.
The excavation permits, but this didn't require excavation.
It did
Okay.
not.
Thank you.
Maybe we should, but we don't.
We have the applicant want to address any of these issues?
So I've said my name and where I live, right?
Please.
Trey Johnson, or Howard Johnson III, 104 Jackberry Lane in Royal. I'll speak to our project. So basically, we've owned it for 30 years. Before my grandpa died, my dad did all the maintenance and keeping stuff clean. We also own Arkansas Glass right there. We actually had trees down on Arkansas Glass. Well, we couldn't get to the trees to get them off the buildings because of how grown up it was. We also had one of the houses behind is Patrick Dobbs. He had a tree fall on his house right there, and so we couldn't even gain access. So we all we've done is cleared brush away, and then there were 3 trees while Jay Bird was there trying to get those off. That there were 3 trees that needed to be cut down, removed. All the rest of the big oak trees are going to stay, but we figured while he was there, and according to what we researched, that we could cut down a tree. That wasn't a problem. We also had a couple of dead trees that were causing problems, and I had Mr. Bates, Alan Bates, actually came out there, and he was the one that suggested what trees to cut down. Okay. So we did that, and basically all he's doing is just basically this is maintenance work that should have been done years ago, just trying to clean it up. No dirt has been touched. John Hackney is actually doing that. And then the actual contractor that will do the grading and dirt work is Craig Brumley, and he's not even there. He's not bringing the equipment. He knows that if it is approved tonight, it'd be October before he could start and get permits and all that. So this is basically just some maintenance that's happening there right now.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions? Thank you. Anyone else from the audience like to address the board? Please.
was 110 Hunter Cove. Director Foley had asked was it was the same person that was doing the Buena Vista. That's Joseph France and Mark Cates. That was another project that I'd presented. Was the made application for a completely different developer. But the only thing that was done on this one, there were 3 trees, like Trey mentioned already, that had either there were already some down trees, large down trees that had fallen on the adjacent properties. Those were removed. There were 2 others that were in danger of falling on either Arkansas Glass property or the neighboring residential property. Those trees were removed. The big trees, the big pretty oak trees, they're still there. They didn't take those down. There was like one that was in the way of the road and one that would be in the way of the maintenance building. Those 2 were taken down, but there's still probably 7, 8 large oak trees that they plan on maintaining. I think that was the main things I was addressing. I don't know if there's any other questions about the development. But Trey and his family, they've done a lot of developments in a lot. They have a long history of sales in our community. I mean, his uncles, his father, Howard Johnson Sr. Had sold cars at Howard Johnson Auto Sales there on Albert Pike, and then his son Howard Johnson Jr. sold cars there, and then his son-in-law's Lloyd Robertson that has Lloyd's Auto Sales, and then nephew is Mark Johnson that has Razorback Camper Sales. So their family has a lot of good established, running good businesses and providing opportunities in the community. But that's basically the only construction that's taking place. It was so grown up, and there were homeless people living back there. It just couldn't do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. No one else from the audience would like to speak, so it's directors. Any discussion amongst ourselves? Discussion amongst directors. Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Weatherford.
No.
Garcia. Garcia.
Aye.
Thank you. Foley.
Aye.
Holiday.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Ordinance is adopted. This completes the action items for this evening's meeting. At this time, we'll entertain Board of Directors items for discussion. Items for discussion.
I have any.
Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Hearing none. Director Jones, you have the final word.
Yes, Mayor. I don't want anybody to forget about the ribbon cutting on Thursday and the water tower on Thursday morning at 9:00. And don't forget to wash your hands. And I move that we adjourn the meeting tonight.
We have a motion to adjourn, seconded by
Second.
Director Garcia. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Meeting's adjourned, and it's dark out, so be careful on your way home.